Alright, so today we're going to be reacting to Game 3, Why You Hate My Theories, specifically regarding FNAF. Now, this is something that I'm very glad MatPat is talking about, because this is something that really needs to be talked about, and I'll go into more detail, because I'm sure I'm going to have a lot to say about this topic. So, without further ado, let's just go ahead and hop straight in, and I'll talk about my opinion on certain things as we go. This needs to be talked about, so let's check it out.
Hello, Internet.
How's it going,
Welcome
MatPat?
to Game Theory, where today
I am a
we're doing
FNAF
what
theorist
a lot
myself,
these
so
days, talking about FNAF.
yes,
but
indeed.
A little mix-up today. We're doing it on the couch, and let me tell you, I
Yo.
got a theory for you. It is a theory that you are absolutely guaranteed to hate. Get your pitchforks ready.
Nah,
my
this
friends.
has
I
to be
prepared to get
talking
dragged all
about,
across
honestly.
Twitter and Reddit for this one, but then again, honestly, that's kind of to be expected.
Yeah,
at
nothing
this point,
new,
because
really.
That's largely been the response.
Not just
to a
you
lot of
either.
FNAF theories.
Every FNAF
Any
theorist.
theory that I release at this point starts
Get
with this massive
shit
wave of
on.
comments like, Matt's theorizing has gone downhill at this
Yeah.
point. His latest FNAF theories are lazy, proper research is not being done. He's
Yep.
clearly running out of material. I'm genuinely wondering if he's even...
Man, and here, again, I'm going to have a lot to say. So this video is going to have a lot to say. I see this a lot. He's not wrong. I'm sure he sees it a lot. And as somebody who watches game theory and a lot of theories on other people, like John from FNAF, this comes up so often. And I can't believe people will say this. When you look at it, you may not agree with the theory, but saying shit like this, it just pisses me off. And I'm not even the one making the theory. A lot of times people will make theories even I disagree with. I'll disagree with MatPat, I'll disagree with John, and I'll agree with them in certain areas. ID's Fantasy, Rye Toast, all of them make great theories that in some areas I agree or disagree to varying degrees, but I will never sit there and be like, oh, this is lazy. They didn't even try with this. That is just so disingenuous and so full of ill intent. It really annoys me. So yeah, like, I see it a lot.
Anymore. There is a difference between telling
I see it a lot in
theories and
everybody's
straight up
comment
telling
section.
misinformation.
Yeah, misinformation.
Harsh, right?
Yeah,
In
it's
fact, I
so
don't
stupid,
know if
man.
you've noticed this, but pretty much every script that we do at this point, especially about this franchise, always comes packaged with some sort of predetermined disclaimer right at the top. Cue the clip.
Everybody.
Warning, though, the conclusions
Yes.
we've reached that solve security
Exactly.
breaks, ooh, they are
You say this every
I feel
time,
good about 'em. Like, I
and
think that
again, and to be fair, John does it too. John emphasizes at the beginning, this is just a theory, because of this, right? Because he gets shit on every time. It's so annoying, bro. They should not be getting this much hate for posting a theory.
Or hate it. I don't really think there's going to be much in between.
Oh, and the
well,
fact that
before
people
we
get
get to my
so
problems here in
pressed.
a minute, let me just say, I seem to be in good company. It's not just me getting these sorts of responses.
Like I just said,
a lot of
John
FNAF
gets it
theorists
too.
are
Rye
receiving
Toast, I'm
some
sure,
sort of
gets it. ID's Fantasy probably gets it, because her stuff is very
John
different.
from the channel FNAF, he has regularly told that, quote, his recent theories are horrible. Yes, I went to a printer and actually printed that out.
I've seen
so I
it.
could read
I've seen it. People were shit on John too
lied
for
about
his
the
theories.
contents of the most recent story.
No, he doesn't.
And here's another one. I don't want to be rude, but the mimic and baby theory sucks. I don't want to be rude, huh? Well, you might want to look up the definition of what it means to be rude.
Yeah,
friendo.
just
And it's
say
not
there's
just me
some
and
parts
John
you don't
either.
agree with it.
Toast, another FNAF theorist, also
Yup.
involved with this one.
I've watched some of his stuff
he
too.
was told that his theories massively whiff. I mean, honestly, the list could go on.
Yeah, I'm
and
sure
on. The
everybody who
feedback
posts a
is
theory
endless,
gets it.
But the TLDR
It's
of
crazy.
all of this is that I went down the line of FNAF theorists, and I
Yep.
just kept seeing the same thing over and over again. It's not just my theories that are getting all this hate.
Yeah, I
it's
know.
all
It's
theories.
crazy. Everybody gets it.
So I figure that we should probably do a theory about that.
I feel like some people have like what they think is going on in the FNAF lore, right? I have my own thought, and sometimes it'll align with Matt, sometimes it'll align with John, and sometimes it doesn't. Like in my last time I did on Poppy Playtime was the last time I reacted to MatPat on this channel. While I was reacting to that, I said the stuff I agreed with and disagreed with, and it happens in every theory I watch. There are the things like, yeah, I don't really agree with that, and then I see this happen with John a lot, like in his most recent theories I see that, where I'm like, yeah, I don't necessarily agree with this, but then John will name that one thing where I'm like, you are on to something with this. You are on to something. And I love those moments. And that is why I will never sit there and be like, ugh, this theory is terrible. What are you even doing? Like, no, there's always value to be pulled and see how other people perceive the, like, hints that are being given to us. There's no, like, bad theories. They can be wrong, sure, but that doesn't necessarily mean they hold no value in their own right.
Because I think I know why this is happening, and honestly, just like the FNAF lore, it's pretty darn complicated. But at this rate,
Oh yeah, there's a lot of factors that go into it.
Take the time and address it. I worry that it could actually
McDonald's.
end up harming this community and the whole FNAF
Oh,
franchise as a whole.
the
First
FNAF,
off, I think
like,
it's important that we set some context.
theorist-
Every FNAF theory that
yeah.
we release at this point is met with the internet largely dismissing it as insane or jumping the animatronic.
Yeah,
limits
and
to
being
shark.
like-
Such as, Cassie Dad is Bonnie Bro. It is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, says one commenter. Great. I mean, I also said that Deadpool is...
Yeah, and again, there's going to be a lot of pausing. I'm sorry, but this is something that needs to be discussed. That is one of the personal things I don't agree with MatPat on. I don't agree with it. I feel like that is a bit far out, but at the end of the day, I like the idea. Like, I'm not against it. I feel like, although I don't agree with it yet with the current evidence, it's a cool theory, and I could definitely see where he pulls from in situations like that. But I'm not going to sit here and say it is a terrible theory. Like, no. Like, although I personally can't see it fully right now, I still enjoy it. I still enjoy seeing his perspective and seeing where his head's at. Like, I just don't understand why people take it so literally and want to shit on people for having their theories. It's crazy to me. Like, just enjoy the theory and stop giving people so much hate.
Daycare attendants' endoskeleton teeth match the mimic. This one right here says it is dumb, 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 dumb.
Oh, they do though.
On that one, we'll get to that in a second.
The teeth do match the mimic. That's
the robot. This theory is literal cancer. No, my friend. No, it's not. It is not a literal cancer. And if me suggesting that a fictional character in a YA murder bunny game is a robot is that bad to you, go touch grass.
Yes.
Anyway, you get the point. There's
you have that opinion? Kindly step the fuck out, please.
That this is nothing new. When I suggested Dream Theory as the explanation for the first wave of games back in 2015,
oh, sure, you got shit for that.
People were so mad. They hated it because honestly, I was dismissing 4 games of story and beloved characters.
Yeah, I mean, Dream Theory was like hated.
Honestly, I didn't love it either, but it felt like where the evidence was.
But it was going at you. Like, that's what annoys me.
Years later, that the sentiment has finally changed on that theory.
It's like,
and people agree that Dream Theory.
You're just bringing forward.
Scott just
you're just bringing forward facts. Yet people are giving Matt shit for that, or John. They're just
coming out, and apparently it rewrites FNAF 4 into some hallucinogenic gas.
But like MatPat putting forward evidence and saying what he thinks about it. People are giving him shit for, like, the giving him shit for Gregbot is so brain dead. Because he is just looking at what he thinks the game is telling. So if you hate Gregbot, giving MatPat shit for that is beyond stupid. I'm sorry, but brain rot, black mold type stuff. If you hate the direction, like if you hate Gregbot as a concept, then you just hate it. But giving Matt hate for that solves nothing. Just stop.
Creation. Thanks for that one, Scott. You couldn't even let me have that victory, could you? What do you want from me, Scott? I'm selling the books for you. The books, by the way.
I gotta read the newest books.
Those books. I started using the books 7 years ago.
People shit on you for that, too. I remember that. Every time you would do that.
7 years of this book.
And people hated it every time you did. Honest to God, I remember that.
But no, I get to read Tales from the Pizza Plex.
And now the books are fully canon. And if you disagree, like, oh.
If not the first person to seriously use the books for overall theorizing.
To solve things.
People hated it.
They did. I remember this.
Like, why would you do that? Why would you talk about the books? But those theories actually helped me predict that William Afton was going to be the villain, that Charlie was going to be revealed to be the puppet, that sister location,
that the missing children's incident happened in 1985.
Afton was the Foxy Bro, and that's just
like
a few of the
1985. Like the books place that as MCI. Like it's crazy how much the books have sold.
Has swung completely in the other direction.
Yeah,
the community holds
the books are fully canon now.
Not looking at the books, or if we're looking at them improperly and not treating them as 100% canon.
Yes, like I just said.
Long story short,
No,
time is a powerful thing, and in this
Yeah,
franchise especially, it is super powerful, considering that Scott
Here's the thing.
said that he uses both the games and books
Yeah,
in the
okay,
future
I'm gonna stop
to
pausing.
clarify the events of the past. Or, you know, that's just
If
his
you think the
shorthand
books are
way of
fully
saying
canon,
he
that's
uses
fine.
those future
You can
things
make your
to
theories off
specifically
that.
pick the direction
But
he
do
wants
not
to go the entire
immediately,
time.
like,
The long
discredit
and
a
short of it is
theory that
sometimes
takes
the
them as
craziest
parallel.
theories in the moment become the correct theories a year or 2 years or even
True.
5 years down the line as more details solidify.
Like,
around
I will never
For
discredit a
great
theory
example
that
of this,
takes the books as
let's
fully
just
canon.
take a look at
If
everyone's
they
favorite
if they
Gregory as a
bring up
robot
some
theory,
good points,
where I propose
good
that
stuff.
Gregory is indeed the robotic reincarnation of the crying child.
Yes.
When I look online, this is often the one that people point to as the point where Matt Pat fell off.
Where he
Literally
fell off.
lost the thread of the game.
True.
To this day,
People
it has entered the
hated
hallowed
that.
pantheon of theories that get memed to death.
I didn't mind
Right
that theory.
alongside Luigi,
Even if I don't like the
Eggplant,
concept of Gregory being a
Wait,
robot, I didn't hate the theory because I agreed with it. It felt like
it's
the
a girthy
direction the game was
boy.
going.
And of course, the Lord above all, Sans' Nest, the king that rules them.
I can get in a whole discussion. I love this theory. Did I think it was true? No, but I still loved it because it was cool to see the connections where he could pull from that. People hated him for this. Dude. Like, why? It was a fun theory. It was really cool to see the connections, even if, obviously, they probably weren't intentional. It was cool to see them, and it was a fun little theory. Not every theory is being presented as if it's actual fact. I don't think when MatPat was making this, he genuinely thought Sans was Ness. But it was cool to be like, oh, there's a lot of connections. Same thing with, like, SpongeBob theories. You see, like, Alex, I can't remember his last name off the top of my head right now, but he's making these SpongeBob theories. Do I think any of that is genuinely what the writers intended? No. But is it cool to kind of see how that stuff connects? Yes. That's what the enjoyment is. It doesn't all have to be taken so seriously as fact, like Sans as Ness. It's not super serious. It's just cool to see the connections, but people take it so seriously that they get so hateful, man. It's crazy.
Small, right? And more often than not, that robot theory gets boiled down to this singular graphic right
True.
here. So much so that we actually started to meme on it ourselves. And you know, when it gets
Yeah,
to
that was the
us
latest one.
meming something, it is definitely dead. We are so cringe that we make your dad's jokes look cool.
You're not
But here's
wrong.
the thing,
You're Matt.
Gregory as a robot is now
You're a
theory
dad
that
now,
has
Matt.
spawned over 4 other theories and constitutes over 15,000 words. And so dismiss it as purely white kid in striped shirt go brrr.
Yeah.
You just falling into the same trap that you, the internet accusers, have leveled at me? You say that I ignore evidence,
Yeah, they're
that I don't do my research, that
super
I ignore key
hypocritical.
details just to forward my intended narrative, but isn't that exactly what you're doing
Yeah.
there? I mean, look at the facts, and for the
Those-
sake of
here's the
clarity
thing.
and for the sake of your
You brought up
I'll try to
so
keep it all on a
much
singular
good evidence
pace,
for
since
Greg
I know
Bot.
that you all
Like,
love to boil my theories down to one inch.
I personally
So,
think
how
Gregory's a
else,
bot
my friend,
with current
would you
evidence.
explain that Gregory looks like the crying child, that he is colored in purple, which connects him to the Afton family, that he's taken a bite out of a golden Freddy head ice cream cone just like the crying child got bit, that he's being called broken, which parallels the final line said to the crying child, his vision getting all staticky when Vanny skips past him in the Pizzaplex, and him looking differently when Freddy gets Roxy's eyes. I don't know about you, but that right there, that seems to me like a lot of important evidence. So
And all of that, yes, there are certain things, like the Roxy eye one, you could just say, because he has different eyes, everything looks different, right? That one could be argued off, but even then, there's so much evidence he points to, and even if you disagree with it, you can see where he's coming from. You don't have to agree with everything he says to enjoy the theory. That's the message.
So who's really ignoring evidence to forward their intended narrative here? Me, the person trying to concoct a theory to explain all of those
People will
details, or anyone
completely-
online who continues
yeah.
to insist that Gregory, he's just a normal kid. And just like with
And you can
dream
have
theory
that
and book
opinion.
theory,
You
more
can have that
evidence
opinion.
for this has just
But
started
you
to stack
can't
up. Since
fully
the release of
say
security breach, the
that
tales from the
Gregory's
Pizzaplex
not a robot.
books, which
You
many
can't say
are
it's
now
100%
considering to be
confirmed.
100% canon to the games. These books have
I personally don't
repeatedly
think that.
included over and over again, story after story of kids either becoming robots,
Yeah,
always
robot
being
kids has been
robots,
such
or
a
being
thing.
taken over by robots. You don't even have to read the stories in the books to know.
Look at the
this.
cover
Just
of
look at the theme
Nexi.
of these covers, right? Robot humanoid kid, robot humanoid. This one doesn't
Train.
count. robot humanoid. Like, the last book in the series that's coming out.
Is another robot
right
humanoid.
now as this
Yeah.
episode releases.
I've seen the
It
cover.
is literally about a kid who turned himself into a robot. Yeah, look at it. He's got human fingers.
Oh
and
my God.
everything.
Oh, I gotta
Another
get
one
that
of those
book.
stories,
That's really
this time GGY. It focuses on a boy named Gregory, sounds familiar, who sets high scores in the Pizzaplex.
Yep.
Again, should sound familiar. He disappears multiple school counselors,
Yes.
similar, and he goes by the name Dr. Rabbit. This story right here is basically shouting in our faces
Yes.
the fact that Gregory is patient 46.
100%.
Confirming that, regardless of how you feel about Gregory as a protagonist, he's a bad dude. He is killing people off, or at the very least, he's making them disappear.
He
to
has a
protect
bad
whatever
past.
secret he has. Something that,
And the
again,
robot theory
we
helps
predicted
explain
as part of
that.
that Robot Gregory series, and something that people at the time really didn't like. Plus, you can't ignore the fact that he's calling himself Dr. Rabbit, which again is yet another connection over to
Rabbit
the Afton
is
family.
Afton, yeah.
And while it doesn't
It's
ever
pretty much
explicitly say that Gregory is a robot,
Afton without actually
it does
saying his name.
write him with some very oddly robotic characteristics.
I do
Quote
agree
from
with
here,
this.
Greg returned the wave. He smiled. Then he cocked his head and studied Tony for several seconds. It's weird, right? It's
Yeah,
written in a very specific way.
It's bringing attention to it.
Senses, and honestly, it
Like,
feels
why
to
even
me like
include
it's
that unless
written
that is a
like an
very
AI,
important thing?
Stopping to learn, study human behavior.
Yeah.
To grow and operate.
A lot of big
And that
things
sort of
people
AI
say is
connection
that
actually
the
returns
whole
when we
thing,
go
him
back to
going to
security
school,
footage. Here,
disproves
I'd like
it.
to direct your attention
But
to the wall
there's
code
aspects
from
in
the
there that
secret sister location
do
room
imply
found
that he's a
near the end of
robot.
that game. Very quickly, the FNAF community figured out that this chunk of wall code right there read as follows: dodge, duck, flash, shoot, crawl, run, crush the vile band.
Yeah.
Who is the only character to do all of those
It's
actions?
Gregory.
It's Gregory.
Yeah.
Faz cams.
This is another thing I 100% agree with Matt on. It is literally Gregory.
So this room,
Everything
an
applies to
Afton
Gregory.
room, mind you, is in some ways trying to speak to Gregory. But why would it be written in such a weird language? Well, honestly, we had no way of knowing it at the time. It wasn't until a
'Cause
year later when this
in the
book finally came out
Storyteller,
again. This is the same one with
Storyteller
CGI,
mentioned
but
the
this time
language
we have a
meant to
tale
spoke
called
to
The
robots.
Storyteller.
Yeah.
This one is a tale all about a genius roboticist who speaks to his AI creations in a very specific way. Quote again from this book: every sheet of paper was covered with odd stick drawings and strange symbols that were not at all familiar.
And it's
to
meant
Mr.
to,
Burns.
and it's used to
Squiggles,
speak to his
squares,
son within the Storyteller.
Triangles within triangles. The code is the language of the mimic. The mimic being an AI program designed to copy those it watched.
His son.
All signs point to Gregory being a robot built as part of this AI system.
Yes.
So throw that one over there onto that one page.
I personally do believe Gregory's a robot with current evidence. I do. But if you don't think, I can see that too. I can see why you wouldn't think that.
Robot Kid projects way sooner than any of us ever expected. That should actually be on there too. And overall, you look at that one screen.
To robot humanoids in general,
pretty
yeah.
crowded in there, right? And even if Gregory isn't a robot,
No,
it's
Matt,
pretty
no.
darn clear that
Matt, no. Get rid of all that. Get rid of all that. Just bring in that one image of you comparing the looks, you know? Because clearly that's the only thing you brought up. That's the only evidence you presented, Matt, was that one image of how they look similar. That's it. You didn't explain a whole bunch of other connections. Oh, no. No, jeez. Imagine if you did that.
someone in this franchise probably is at this point. Here's the thing. I'm not bringing all this up to try and convince you, the internet critics out there of this theory. There are some dead horses that I just want to leave alone, believe it or not. And honestly, I don't care if you believe this theory or not. I do not care in the slightest.
Yeah.
I have no horse in this race, though apparently I have a lot of horse analogies to make, which is weird. I am here having fun in my little corner of the internet trying to solve silly video game mysteries with a cool team around me.
It's supposed to be
and an awesome
fun.
community of theorists.
It's supposed to
I
be
would love
enjoyable.
the internet critics to join us. That would be awesome. We are an open-minded community. We are welcoming. We embrace you with open arms in the most fan-friendly way possible, but not in a way that's going to get us canceled. But for the people over on Reddit and Twitter who accuse
Professionalism.
me and all the other theorists of ignoring important information
Yes.
for the sake of
Oh
forwarding
my
our own version of the
God.
narrative, just because we don't
It's
care about
not
the franchise,
that
ask yourself
serious.
honestly, who's really the closed-minded ones here? We're the ones pointing out this information. We're the ones who are trying to solve what all this means. To ignore it, that actually
Yeah,
feels
and just because you
disrespectful.
disagree with it
While
doesn't
we're
give you the
being
right
honest
to
about
just
all this,
completely
let's also
sweep
be
everything
honest
under the
about our
rug.
Standards for clue hunting. I have been raked over the coals a lot across recent theories for making visual connections between characters and objects. My last theory, great example of this. I drew parallels
This is
between the
one-to-one.
daycare attendant and the mimic because both of them
Their
have very
teeth are
unique
the
teeth, where
same.
each
Their
individual
teeth
tooth
are
is
literally the
independently
same.
operated. It's a completely unique design for an endoskeleton, only shared by those two characters.
Yeah, and that's a
Yet
great
people
connection.
were quick to dismiss the entire idea as just
Really?
surface level. Oh, it's only a coincidence. But do you remember what franchise we're talking about here, friends?
Why would you dismiss that?
We started with counting animatronic toes and
Why would you
buttons.
hate that theory?
But the reason that I bring that up is that while many dismissed that,
It's a cool design,
I saw
and it's
those
something that
exact
is very
same
interesting.
conversations happening
Why
around
don't
the
these
mimic
two guys
hand
have it?
with its clawed fingers?
Nightmare.
Oh my gosh, clawed fingers, just like Burn Trap or the Glamrock's hands. You do realize that you're doing the exact same thing that you were criticizing me for.
Wait.
Right? I mean, if you
People gave you shit for comparing mimics and daycare attendants' teeth. Yet in the same thing, they will compare his hand to Burn Trap and the Glamrocks. Also, that hand could be comparable to the Nightmares as well, which are technically not real. Theoretically. But, what? But this is the thing. It's the hypocrisy, right? It's the hypocrisy of some of these people where they're like, you're wrong, I'm right. I can use these types of evidence to connect things, but you can't. I do that with not a mustache. Well, at least a very short one.
you're allowed to compare sharp, pointy hands, then I can compare independently moving teeth, right? In the end,
Especially when
the
the teeth are only applied to two. That type of hand can apply to so many different characters, it's not even funny.
More evidence to support any of our conclusions. Simple observations like fingers or teeth. They're easy ones to build off of. They're easy ones
they
to start
matter.
exploring. And hey, where they lead to can
And
be some really
if they're
awesome
not really the
directions.
big
We as
things,
humans
they can lead to
are
more evidence.
pre-programmed to seek closure in whatever we're doing. And it makes us feel secure and brings a sense of satisfaction, of closure, right?
100%.
There's actually an entire brand of psychology dedicated to this very fact. So naturally, when we're faced with a series that doesn't give us any sort of clean or definitive answer, it's
true
easy
that.
for us to want to find the simplest solution or cling on to certain details like they're indisputable facts because it's better to be wrong than to be uncertain. And FNAF makes that hard because it's a story
my
that's
God.
built on shifting sands.
Especially recently,
Went
man.
from
Oh,
possessing animatronics to liquid soul metal to digital consciousness transfer
AI.
and to goo that literally tries to steal
oh,
your
Fazgoo.
identity.
Oh,
And while that's
he likes to bring it up every.
frustrating, honestly, it's also what makes the franchise so fun.
That's what makes it
Taking
fun.
small little
It's
puzzle
so
pieces
dumb and
extrapolating
random.
possible answers. But that
So, there's no
extrapolation,
one
honestly, I think
answer.
is where we're rubbing people the wrong way. A few weeks ago, I asked a bunch of you online to take the Myers-Briggs personality test. Now, this is a really fun assessment that breaks you down into one of 16 different personality types based on
I have to
letters.
do
Are
this
you an E,
'cause-
an extrovert who likes just being out with people?
Nope.
Or are you an I, introvert, who likes
Yes.
your quiet alone
I'm
time?
definitely
Are
more
you
of an
a
introvert.
structured and organized J for judging, or are you a go with the flow for perceiving P? Do you prefer logic and thinking, T, or do you like to go with your gut and your feelings, F? But for this particular debate, I actually wanted to focus on two letters, S and N. Now, these two
What are
letters
these?
focus on how you process information. The S stands for sensing. This means that you take the information from the world around you and you take it at face value.
All right.
You use your five senses to determine what is real and factual. It often means that you look at the world in a very literal way. N, on the other hand, stands for intuition. It's not the clearest of
Yeah,
systems.
bit
Okay,
weird.
I'll use the I. Anyway, if you're an N, it means that you interpret information in more abstract ways. Rather than just relying
Okay.
on exactly what's in front of you physically, you take that information and then you go a couple steps further. You make connections between things in interesting ways to go beyond just your five senses. So, how does this relate to
Okay.
theorizing? Well, the vast majority of this
Well,
channel
to be fair-
subscribers are N's. They're
Yeah.
taking information not at face value, but building more abstract connections.
I was
by
gonna say,
solutions.
theorizing in
fact,
general is
almost
very
everyone who works
intuitive.
At Team Theorist here is an N purely by coincidence. It's not like you can actively screen for something like that. It just works out this
True.
way because
It'd be
the
kinda
way
hard
we
to
do
screen for
things
that.
here requires a certain mindset. A mindset that only
A lot
about
of
25%
stuff.
of the population is innately comfortable with. Is Mario a villain? No, of course not. There
No.
are so many examples of him being
I love
pure,
those theories,
but
though.
You also can't ignore little details, like the time he chained up Donkey Kong.
Yeah,
the time that
Mario's
Sonic
done
on his little
some
brother's
mess
side.
stuff.
That right there yields some pretty interesting conclusions. if
Yeah,
you
and it's-
connect all those
and it's
dots,
fun to look
leading
at.
to, hey, Mario.
Is Mario actually a villain?
That's not to say
No.
that you can't also
But
theorize as an S. You
was fun.
absolutely can.
It's a fun theory.
In fact, our creative director Tom and FNAF theorist John were both in town a couple months ago, and they showcased this exact difference in mindset. They probably best showed it with how to interpret Michael's ending monologue from Sister Location. Tom's an N, John is an S. John used the literal words being said to inform his interpretation, while Tom was more focused on how the words were said to imply meaning.
Fun fact, by the way, after we shot this video,
Two
we got
different
into contact
minds
with John, and
that
we asked him to take
are
this
very
test
good
again.
to work
and
together.
Since he first visited, his Myers-Briggs has actually shifted to more of an N type. Remember, the Myers-Briggs test isn't just black and white, it's a spectrum. John was originally 59% S, but now that's shrunk down to 32%.
Damn.
That doesn't mean that he now has no more S tendencies, it's just that his exposure to the wonderful world of FNAF theorizing has led him to look at things differently,
his eyes
to
have been
link the
open to look
obscure,
at it
to
a
make
different way.
connections from small details, and to imply meaning through more abstract means rather than the more literal ways that he might have done a couple years ago.
And that right there, that is the fundamental difference that's happening in the fan base right now. I think a lot of the newer fans to the
I think
franchise
it's a split between the S and N.
And when you look at our survey results, you can actually see this playing out, with almost 25% of S's joining during either the FNAF VR, AR, or security breach era. Compare that to N's, where only 18% joined during that era.
And so when evidence needs to be interpreted with an N mentality, it's making them uncomfortable or even outright mad. Take, for instance, this clip from our most recent
Okay, I
episode.
see where you're going, huh?
And more importantly, Cassie actually knows the truth about what happened to Glamrock Bonnie. She knows that it was Monty Gator who eliminated him from the picture.
A lot of people were quick to point out that on the description of the Glamrock Bonnie plush, it says, quote, "Dad wouldn't tell me why they replaced Bonnie." In fact, this was one of those moments where people outright accused me of lying about the evidence, saying that I was ignoring
no
the text
lie.
that I was literally showing on the screen. That would be really dumb of me if that was what I was doing,
Yeah.
but let's actually take a closer look at that specific line. Dad
I'll be honest.
wouldn't tell me
I
why they
personally
replaced
don't
Bonnie. Typically
think
speaking,
Monty destroyed
someone that's
Bonnie
an
currently.
S would look at that line and take it literally. Her dad wouldn't tell her what happened, therefore she doesn't know what happened. However, as an N, I'm not just taking those words at face value, nor was I willfully ignoring them. I was just interpreting.
Yeah, she knows that Bonnie was replaced. Maybe she doesn't know exactly why, but she does know he was replaced. And maybe she knows that it was kind of a shady reason why he was replaced. There's a lot that could be taken from
them
that.
differently. Her dad wouldn't tell her what happened. That doesn't necessarily mean she doesn't know what happened. Your parents might not tell you how to cook a meal, but that doesn't mean that you don't have ways of finding out how to cook. Same thing applies to this other line from the same portion of our video. This one about the Monty AR.
It's hard to look
Again,
at.
It's hard to look at. Well,
Yeah, and again, I definitely see where he's pulling from with this, right? Off rip, you like, oh, it's kind of like, it's kind of straining on the eyes. It's kind of hard to look at. But as Matt Pat brought up in his theory, maybe she knows Monty destroyed Bonnie and can pull from it. Again, I'm not so sold on Monty being the one who destroyed Bonnie, but I can see this, and I'm like, yeah, I could definitely see that. I could see that, like,
S's would read
train of
that
thought.
and interpret it that maybe it's bright, it's shiny. It is physically hard to look at because it's
but
an
maybe
AR
she knows what he
so
did.
Maybe that's why.
Like he brought up
but
in his theory.
N's would read that line and probably read it differently. Nothing else Cassie says about the other AR objects in the game imply that they're difficult
to look at.
At least
Yeah.
from a physical perspective. So what makes the Monty AR thing so different? Well, maybe because it's not physically difficult to look at, but emotionally difficult to look at. It's hard to look at because she knows the truth about what Monty did to Glamrock Bonnie. But here's the big one, and this is the one that honestly has divided the
definitely
fan
see
base
it.
for the better part of the last year. It is this line used to market the new Tales from the Pizza Place.
Oh.
Quote, "A collection of new Five Nights at Freddy's short
yes, this
stories
comes up
set
so
in
much.
the world of the newest game." This one line has been
Has
used time
caused
and time again to
so
say that
much
these Tales from the Pizzaplex books, they are
shit.
100% canon, one for one with the game's
Yeah.
stories. That right there, that is a very S interpretation, a literal interpretation of what's being said. But there's also the N interpretation of that line. You can be set in a world without it being the same world. I think Rye Toast actually said this one best.
The Super Mario Brothers movie that just came out, that's set in the Mario Brothers universe, 100%.
But it's not canon with the
to
game.
Hey
Yes.
Rye, your end's showing. But that's always how
Yes.
books have operated. And so
And I
many,
think the FNAF
myself
movie is gonna be the same
included,
way.
have treated these new books in the same way, and as a result, we've gotten lots of hate for it. I mean,
It's not
Yeah,
an invalid
it's
interpretation. It's just
rough,
a
man.
different, less literal interpretation than one that many of
It's
you on Reddit
looking
are
at
familiar
it
with.
from
And
a
it's one
different
that
way,
honestly is more in line with
a
statements
more
that Scott has made in the
non-direct way,
past
trying to
about
read into the
books.
details.
Can we all be honest with ourselves here? That line was cut from all the marketing. It's gone. It doesn't exist
was.
anymore. You have to dig up like historical websites to find it. It's now been replaced with this line that is published across all the books. Scott Cawthon spins 3 sinister novella-length tales from uncharted corners of
Oh,
this
the
series'
series
canon.
canon.
And again, that right there, that is even more vague and non-specific, because look, we're talking about areas that are uncharted, never explored before, which honestly, even if you're choosing to read that line with a literal interpretation, feels like it's even more support for them not being 100% canon with the games.
Yeah.
Since we have charted a lot of the topics that you see in some of these stories, like the Gregory story. Great
Yeah,
example.
a lot of
We
it
know how he
fits
acts in the
very
game.
well, but
It
it's
is
not
slightly different than how he acts in the
100%, yeah.
books. It's not one for one. It cannot be.
And some people will say that like the Pizzaplex was renovated over and over again for all these like there's a lot of attractions in the books that are just not in the game. You can't even excuse the fact that they be behind the tier 10 doors, because some of these attractions are massive attractions that would have been in Security Breach. And then some people will use the argument that, oh, it's just been renovated multiple times. And my argument against that is always, read through the books and see how many different attractions, big attractions that are in the books that are not in the games at all, or in Security Breach at all. Do you have any idea how many times the building would have to be renovated to make that work? Like, it would have to be renovated multiple times a year for, like, the span of the Pizzaplex, assuming Security Breach is when the Pizzaplex goes into disrepair. Game takes us in 2035. Whatchamacallit? FNAF 6 happens in 2023. That places us as a little over 10 years for the franchise to restart, the Pizzaplex to be built, and be running for a long enough time for all of these attractions to be made and still come to where Security Breach happens. The amount of times they'd have to renovate the building within that span of a decade, I just don't see it. Like, yes, a building like the Pizzaplex would probably get renovated every like 4 or 5 years, maybe add a new attraction, but they wouldn't be renovating in a new attraction, replacing old ones every year. The amount of money that would cost is insane. Like, I just don't see it from a realistic standpoint. And I guess, I don't know if that's like a very S thing that we're talking about. That might be a very S thing to say, but like, you gotta look at it from logical and like, you gotta be able to look at it logical standpoint as well. And I just don't see how the book's attractions could have happened in the games. Again, it's not impossible, but it'd be very weird.
Literal. I'm just pointing it out. It is a difficult position to defend. And all of that is without me even pointing out the differences between the books and the games. Like the fact that there isn't a giant baobab tree in the middle of the Pizzaplex.
Nowhere.
The fact that the Pizzaplex is not shaped like a giant pizza slice in the game, as it is in the books. The fact that there isn't a giant VR, AR dome that's turning people into Faz.
And yeah, like a VR giant dome, like where's that? The entire building changing its shape? Nobody would do that. You have any idea how much that would cost? Like, what? Like, again, these are just renovations that just these are renovations that would not happen over the course of the short lifespan of the Pizzaplex. It really wouldn't.
And that there's no roller coaster that's running through the center of the restaurant. And those are just some of the differences that pop to the top of my head. I have seen people online picking and choosing certain stories to be canon and certain stories to
You
be not
can't
canon.
do that.
And again, I have to call out, isn't that just picking and choosing certain evidence pieces
Yeah.
to forward your intended narrative? And do you see the
I won't agree with that.
Those of you who are convinced that the books are canon are doing exactly the same thing that you criticize online theorists of. You have an answer that you're committed to, and so every theory is based
You're
on a
backtracking
assumption.
to come
And
to
if
that
it's
conclusion.
Okay for you, then it has to be okay for us too. In the
Yes.
end, here's the important thing to remember.
Nobody's
We're all
gonna
on the same
nobody's
team.
gonna hate
All
you for
working
making
towards the same
theories
goal. We are
that the
trying
books
to
are fully
tell this
canon.
franchise together as
You can do
completely
that.
as
In fact, I
possible
want to try doing
using
that
the most
myself.
satisfying evidence-based
But
answers
don't
we can.
give
We all
people
love this franchise.
so much hate
We all love a good
when they
mystery, and we
try
all
and
want
say
the
the
answer.
books are
And
one-to-one.
the way that
And
we
people
get
who
to those
think the books are
answers
one-to-one, like
is by being
myself,
open to
don't
all
give hate to people who
all
think the
ideas,
books
no
are
matter
fully
where
canon.
or what
Just don't
personality type they're
give
coming
each
from.
other
And even
hate.
when we do get things
Just
right,
look at
it's
theories
okay,
objectively.
and it's
See
also
what you can gain from them.
important to
Disagree,
occasionally
agree.
revisit
Maybe
those
you might agree with it
answers. Guess what?
completely or
This
disagree with all of
franchise
it.
changes.
But it doesn't
evolves.
make it a
adds
bad
more lore in
theory.
places that you least expect.
Yeah, God.
So when
I gotta
someone
get the
makes a
cookbook.
big old swing, don't be quick to write them off. I mean,
Yes.
I suspected that Chica was a mediocre melody just out of the blue, and that Mr. Hippo was at one point one of the core animatronic lineup. Both
Yeah.
things that at the time seemed like pretty big swings back in the day, but both things that at this point actually have a lot of evidence to back them up. So sometimes those
Puppet
big
Carver
risk theories
really
actually
pushes
yield
toward
some
that,
pretty
though.
big rewards. In the end,
Puppet Carver
it's
really
easy to
points toward
point
that
at someone
theory.
else's ideas and find the holes, but it's actually a lot harder to then offer up your own solutions. It takes guts to put yourself out there and
Do it all the
concoct a
time.
theory, so be nice to other people's ideas. Because
And I'll continue to
that's
do
the
it
way we
as I
learn.
watch
That's
other
the
theories.
way we grow. We do it by asking questions and making mistakes. If every theory were perfect the first time out, well, let's be honest.
What's the point?
There wouldn't be any mystery to this.
Yeah,
Right?
what's the
games
point?
would
What's
be
the point
as
of having
fun,
multiple
they'd
different
be
people
boring.
try and do it?
And honestly, it wouldn't have spawned this incredible franchise that we have today. It
Nothing's
also wouldn't have spawned this
definite-
amazing merch. Like this Springtrap jacket, which and this, okay, great, thank you. Thank you for that one, Mr. Tom. You're the best. All this incredible Five Nights at Freddy's merch available down in the merch shelf down below this video.
Is that a Chica
It launched
jacket?
today, and we worked on it, and I'm very proud of it. It gets to some
Oh,
really
your boy has
cool
to look at
objects
that.
from different parts of the franchise. That was a
God damn,
pink
bro.
varsity jacket from Chica's high school years. It's a win. It launched today.
That's
and
awesome.
FNAF video going up.
I'll probably grab that Chica jacket.
Even though
I
it's serious.
love
Let's
Game
bury the
Theory
hatchet.
jackets.
So,
I have a lot
there's
of them.
Movie coming. There's a new game. The book series is wrapping up, and hey, there's that cool new line of apparel. Let us move forward together as a united
Yes.
family of FNAF theorists.
That's just-
N's, S's, and every letter in between. All of us united in our love of mystery and our collective hatred of Fazgoo.
Yeah.
But hey, that's just a
Damn, what a
theory.
classic.
A game theory. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna toss this merch at you. Take this apparel.
Just
Take
fucking
this
huck the
apparel
merch
and
at
run
him.
with it. Except for this one. Might change
All right.
this one later today. I like the shirt. It's like hidden Mickeys.
Alright, GG's. Okay. Closing thoughts. Oh my god, I've almost been going for 40 minutes. But it needs to be spoken for. Again, I have what I think with my theorist mindset. I've been in this series since the beginning. I've been theorizing about FNAF since FNAF 1, when I was a wee lad in middle school. I've been theorizing about this game. And at the end of the day, you may agree with me on theories, or you may disagree. You may post theories that I, for the most part, disagree with, but honestly, I always still try and look and see what I can agree with. And if nothing, then, at the end of the day, still good on you. I like to see what you personally take from it. I like to see what kind of conclusions you come to with the evidence you're given. And just, same thing with Matt, same thing with FNAF, and Rytos, ID's Fantasy, and every other FNAF theorist there is. They all come to such different conclusions, and that's what's so fun to go see where everybody's head's at. Whenever Matt drops a new video for FNAF, I'm like, I want to see where your head is at. I don't go there to agree with everything you say. That's not what I'm going there for. I'm going there to see where your head is at. See if you bring up something that I'm like, hey, that's a good one. I like that. I'll have to put more thought into that, and I will say, like I said, John has been doing a lot of that recently. A lot of stuff where I like a lot of stuff John's been putting out about Ruin. I agree with a lot of it, also that. So yeah, again, I've done a lot of the speaking I wanted to do. This video's 40 minutes long, which means I almost did 15 minutes of speaking. But at the end of the day, that's what this video is about. This video is about to get the conversation going within the theorist community, and I just want to put my voice out there. Again, I'm a small channel. Probably not the most amount of people are going to say this, but it's something I really want to put out there. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Make your theories. Come to the conclusions you want in the game. Books fully canon. Books parallel. Whichever you believe. Make your theories. And just coexist. Let's just have some fun with it. Alright. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next episode of whatever I make. Have a good day, guys.